I've done this year is to explore blended learning, particularly with one first-year unit. So I actually involved in two first-year units, Maths for Engineers 1 and Maths for Engineers 2, and both of them are core units in the engineering degree. Maths for Engineers 1, you're looking at about 400 students, and Maths for Engineers 2, about 100 this semester, where it's a repeat semester for most students. The unit's primarily on campus, but I have been trialling, especially in Maths for Engineers 2, a blended learning approach where I have a PowerPoint presentation at the beginning to let them know about what's happening in the unit, so I'm not starting off with that. That's what they've got to do before they come. There's online lectures that they have to listen to before they come, and then I do a workshop type lecture presentation where we work in more detail through questions, and then they have a tutorial. But that's not really what I'm going to be talking about today. What I wanted to explore in both these units is how to better communicate with students, and communicate with students in their time frame and in their way, and to encourage, like, for them to communicate with me, but also how I could communicate back to them effectively, and hope to facilitate more engagement in the unit. You know, both these units involve 2 or 3 hours of lectures, me standing up the front talking. I could talk all day. People know me, I can talk lots. But is that an effective way of teaching mathematics? Not really. 2 or 3 hours of maths in a block, and I've had many people fall asleep and this sort of stuff, and so it just is not an effective communication tool, and it's a fairly ineffective learning environment. But that's what I'm stuck with, so how can I supplement that? What do I do to encourage that? And I also wanted first-year students who have been given these iPads to see how they could be useful and more than just a game tool. You know, I've had an iPad for 18 months or so, and it's great for playing games. But really, if we've spent all this money, we've got to do something more. And also, very importantly, to get across to the students, math has to be done and not absorbed. Just because you're sitting in the room, it doesn't magically float down and you appreciate what it does. Or, you know, I hand them a printed solution, imagine this being a math solution, and I hold it to my heart and go, I'm going to learn this maths this way. But I think that's, all those students don't sort of communicate that. That's what they actually do in practice. And so if a student sends me a problem and I type out a solution and flick it back to them, who's learnt from it? I've learned how to type up a solution, but have they learnt anything from it? And so trying to get away from students learning stuff by snapping a picture and hoping that picture implants in their mind, and then they can go and use it somewhere else. So what I've introduced into the first year unit who have iPads, so first year, first up students, I've been using this app quite a lot, and I did introduce it to students at the beginning of the year, and it's called Goodnotes. There is a free version you can try, or the one that I use, I actually paid for it, so beginning of the year, get in quick with these, and it was $4.49. And now it's going to cost you $6.99 for this app. What does the app do? Well, things you can do with it. I took a picture. This is their web page. So I took a picture of things it can do. So it can take notes, and it's really good at taking notes. So meetings I go to now, I take notes. And so just showing you, and it's not going to go back, so we won't worry about that. We'll go back to where we were. But it will take notes. You can organise your stuff into folders. So I have folders either for general meetings, I have a blended learning folder, an iPad Summit folder, I have a Maths 1 folder, a Maths 2 folder, etc. So I can take notes, and it's really quite effective at writing simple things like a double tap and you can zoom, double tap and you can zoom in. I do have a choice of colours. Now when I tap here, you don't get anything happening on the screen, but if I just, I can't even show people here, I do have drop-down menus, which I can navigate, but it's not going to happen on the screen. And so I can change colour pen, so you can see on this screen here you've got lots of different colour pens, etc. The other really good thing that you can do as well with it, if I tap and hold, I get a little menu item come up and I can type in some text. So I could put in text into there, and you can see it's inserted this text here. If that's not large enough to read, you just expand it with a 2-finger tap. And so it's very easy to manipulate between text. If you have one of the iPad stands that has the Bluetooth keyboard, that's really easy to operate. You have a coloured pen, which you can change the thickness, and you've got a choice of 10 colours. You've got a highlighting tool. You've got an eraser. I have a lasso tool, so that if I lasso around something, I can actually delete and that sort of stuff. So you can do all those sorts of things. So I can just undo what I've just done. So you can do lots of things on the screen. So as I said, how do I get this picture here? Went to the web page, press copy, and just then, if I hold anywhere on the screen, I can import an image from my photos, from cameras, from Dropbox, from anything like that. So, how do students use it? Well, as exams, my exam actually is tomorrow afternoon, and so what I have been doing for the last 2 weeks, about 5 or 10 times a day, I might get something like this from students. So the big thing with students communicating maths to me is, it's not a simple process as typing a letter. You've either got to have a program to do it, so the new versions of Word, their maths type is really awful. I like the old maths type, much easier. Or if you like some people like Vulcan, you do tech, but this old head can't learn new stuff very easily. And so, and students don't have that access. So there was a communication block. But what do they do now? You can see here, this is a really bad photo, but they took a photo of work they were doing. They sent it to me. I can blow up that photo and say, well, here, this is where you've made your mistake. This is what you've got to do. So I can annotate this document, and just to show you quite simply, so just by circling it and saying, do this again. Okay, that sort of stuff, and they can get it. And then what do I do with it? There's a simple button, which again you can't see, and I just export it. I can export the page, I can email it, and it will come up, and I probably won't come up and show you here, but it comes up, set up as an email with that notebook embedded in it. And the notebook is a PDF file, which is readable then, if you've got an iPad, a PC, a Mac, whatever. So it's sent back to the student as a PDF file. So go back to...
What elements do the students send the picture to you?
Any format they like. So it comes in an email to me. If they've sent it as a JPEG or something like that, I just hold on to it and I can save that image to my photos, and then in Goodnotes just hold on and import an image. If they send me a PDF file, I just long tap over the PDF file and I get a box, what would you like to open it in, and I can open it in Goodnotes. So that's one way. Some of the students have actually got it themselves. So here's an exercise that a student actually wrote out themselves in Goodnotes and sent to me to check her working out. So it's a fairly clear, she's a very neat writer. My files don't quite look as neat as this one, but she's a very neat writer. Really, then it opens up communications for students to enable them to send me confidently work that they've done, that they're not hindered by technology and having to type it out. And so this was sent to me, so I just directly open it in Goodnotes. How have I used it? Well, here are some questions. This is some questions I was doing last week, revision questions. So just imagine without all those annotations on it, you know, so I can highlight, so I say, okay, the crux of this question is that you've got to carefully sketch the surface. So I can highlight stuff. I can, put, make sure you take note of this sort of stuff. So that was the sort of things I was doing when I was doing it. If I want to answer one of these questions, I can quickly just import a page. And so I imported a page after this and did my working out. I can make it large so that when I write, it's very clear, and then I can quickly just shrink it down so they get the whole question. After that, then, have you ever, talking to the maths people, for instance, you're doing some solutions or you're doing something and you need to put a diagram in. How do you do a diagram like this if you're using Word or something like that? I quickly just sketch it up on here. So how I do these ones, you make it really large And so you can get quite a lot of detail, but then when you shrink it, it looks quite neat. What do I do here? I just quickly export this back to myself as a PDF file, and then I can drop it into my documents. So I use it that way myself. You know those standard documents we had to fill in? How do you do it? It's a PDF file. What are they called? Active PDFs? Interactive PDFs don't work on your iPad, but you can get around that because you don't need an interactive PDF. I filled this one in using Goodnotes. So I can tick my boxes and see where I've, you just hold on the space. See, this is here. And so it just gets added in there. I could save this back to my Dropbox, and so when Kim sent us all those documents we had to fill in, there was a Dropbox folder. I can export this straight back to that Dropbox folder. And those horrid special consideration forms we had to fill in, how many times have you photocopied them, signed it, and then scanned it back? Well, you don't have to do that. Once Venus sent it to you, it's in my inbox, long tap over the PDF file, it opens in Goodnotes, I can sign it, and then just flick it straight back to her as an email. So it's e-forms from now on, so that use isn't there, so that's if the e-forms are going to be working. The other thing I've used it for, as I started this presentation, that screen you saw, PowerPoint presentation, I could upload PowerPoint into Goodnotes as well. This is just a slide from a PowerPoint presentation at an iPad summit I went to, and so what can you do with it? You can write all over it. So I can take notes on a PowerPoint presentation if it's presented beforehand, and ever done webinars and you're taking notes while you're doing a webinar? How did I do this one? I took a photo of the screen and then uploaded it into Goodnotes so I could write my notes onto it. And so as you're watching, so I can utilise Goodnotes with lots of other things. And so students have actually taken it up. There's quite a few students in Maths for Engineers 1. We're using Goodnotes. I provide printed lecture notes with gaps in them that they've got to fill in lectures. So they'll bring that on their iPad and they just annotate the notes as they go. They can show me if they've got a mistake. They can refer back to other notes. With Goodnotes, the benefit of buying it is you get unlimited folders and files. To use the free version, you get 2 files. And so you can experiment and you delete that one and start again, so you can work quite a while with 2 files. But it's well worth the price. But if not Goodnotes, if you haven't used a note-taking PDF annotator type thing, and there's lots of them, I think, is this going to load it? So these are some of the other ones. Notes HD, Notes. I mean, the one you hear about in any iPad thing is Evernote. The thing with Evernote, you can only type in it, and if you want to handwrite, you've got to go to Penultimate, which you can link, and all this sort of stuff. But for $6.99, I think I've had my $4.49 value out of Goodnotes, and as I said, at the moment, I'm probably using it 5 to 10 times. Yep, and just quickly, and I'm not sure if this is going to be shown to you, the other thing that I have been experimenting with is this other program called Educreations. Now, Educreations is free, and the benefit of Educreations, which is the one thing that Goodnotes doesn't do, and if you do read the reviews, they are working on it, it won't record. Some of the other PDF annotators will record as well, but to record Educreations. Now, Educreations is very, very simple to use, and just to show you one of these ones that I quickly did. So I'll just pause this one. Educreations is just a writing tablet or a text tablet Again, you can import photos, images into it, but it's in real time and I can talk to it. So if I have a problem and I want to talk through students, I can make a simple recording. It's a matter of pressing a button record, pressing a button stop. And Educreations is another good one in that I have set up, you can set up a class group in Educreation. So I'm a teacher and so I can have a class access to it, or else I can just flick the link to students via an email or through Facebook or Twitter, and that link can be opened even if you don't have Educreations. It can be opened. I tested it out with my husband the other day, said, can you get this? And so he hasn't got Educreations or anything, just opened it up as a normal link. And so again, it's just another simple tool of being able to communicate with students. Or if you want to upload, lots of students are asking you the same question, upload a little video onto the Views site and you can put the link on the Views site, that sort of thing. So that's just about it. Is it working? I'll let you know in 2 weeks' time after they've done their exams to see if am I still really bad at what I'm doing, or have the students learnt something from it, and maybe the pass rate will increase this time round.
Thank you, Lynn.